time for the Wild Earth African Safari Review for the Wii. It's been a while since I reviewed an educational game. The last one was Big Brain Academy for the Wii, and actually, I'm not sure that qualifies as an educational game, but more of a see which areas of brain function you excel in type of game. So this is probably my first educational game to review. So as we start out, What? This game takes up 128 blocks of memory? That's how much Brawl takes up. Why is it such a hog? Well, it's because each level is actually quite large in area. So to any parents watching this, if you want to get this game for your kids, make sure there's enough memory space to play it. You can play it without saving, but I don't see too many kids finishing this in one go. When you begin campaign mode, you're given a short tutorial of how to move around and take pictures with your camera. And that's pretty much the game right there. You're a photojournalist who is supposed to take pictures of certain animals doing specific things, as well as natural wonders for an article written about the wildlife and scenery of Africa. As you play through, two people, one a professor and the other the article writer, who for some reason is asking really basic questions about the wildlife.
See that big cow in the middle? That's the matriarch.
Really, Professor? That's not nice.
No, Val. Female elephants are called cows. The males are called bulls.
Wait a minute, why is she writing the article if she needs to take African Wildlife 101? Anyway, they will talk to you about what you'll need to do next to progress, as well as giving you information about your surroundings and the wildlife. It's basically like watching Discovery Channel or National Geographic or Animal Planet, with some good kids humor thrown in to keep things interesting and not dull. In each level, you have to take a minimum amount of pictures to complete the area. At the top left of the screen shows you your main objective. All other objectives below the top one are, well, they're not exactly side quests, because you will need to shoot the majority of them to pass. See, at the end of the level, it will tell you how many photos of the objectives you took. If you didn't take at least the minimum amount of photos for the level, you have to redo the whole level over again. This can be really frustrating because you don't have an infinite amount of time to take some of these pictures, because the animals will move on to other things and you'll miss the shot you needed, and sometimes it's really difficult to find certain subjects to take photos of, especially hyraxes. I don't know why it was like this, but taking photos of hyraxes was in just about every level of the game. That can be a problem because these guys are little and hard to find. The game most likely unintentionally makes up for this frustration by letting you take bad-looking photos of the subjects and qualifying them for the objective. Some of the photos I took were just crap, but the game accepted them anyway. I think because this is a kids game, the rules are lenient, and as long as you have the subjects in frame, the game will usually accept them. Now there were times where I had to get closer or zoom in to get a better shot, but for the most part, you don't have to shoot quality photos for the game to accept them. It is more fun to be patient and line up your shots for higher quality photos, but since there is no scoring system of how well you took photos, it's really up to you whether or not you want good or bad looking shots. I wish there was a scoring system, but photography is an art, so even if the game had some kind of algorithm to base on what a good and bad looking photo looks like, I'm sure I would have disagreed with its calculations some of the time. One thing I didn't like was how much or little you could zoom in on your camera. Now I'm no Serengeti photojournalist, but I think you would want a larger lens than this game provides to take high quality shots without getting too close and serving yourself as a meal to some of these animals. It was surprising, however, on how close you could get to the wildlife. Like this right here. Are you kidding me? There's no way anyone could get this close and survive in real life. When you get too close to the animals, a red warning arrow would appear telling you which animal is upset with you and could, and sometimes do, charge at you. I don't think this game was properly programmed in this area. See right here, this crocodile is chasing me, and chasing me, and chasing me. It chases me all the way into this tree grove, and then when it finally stops chasing me, it just stays there. It was first chasing me away from its young, but don't you think it would go back to where her babies are? It just stays there, allowing me to go back and get the shot I wanted. The graphics are poor. This looks just a little better than N64 graphics. I mean, come on, this is 2 generations above the N64, and the game looks like this? It definitely could be a lot better. The controls are good for the most part. Use the Wiimote to point and click to take photos and move around with the nunchuck. The only time it became a small hassle to deal with is when you're driving a Jeep while still having to take photos. As I said before, as long as you have the subjects in frame, it really doesn't matter what your photos look like. However, there was one spot in the game where it took about 10 frustrating and confusing minutes to get one shot. So right here, I'm supposed to take a photo of the hippo nursery, which, if you look, this has to be it. There are baby hippos with a den mother keeping watch. But for some reason, the game would not register this as the hippo nursery, but just hippos in general. I took dozens and dozens and dozens of photos until finally, at one specific angle and distance, I got the shot. This was crazy. I couldn't progress through the game without this one picture. I don't know why it did this, but man, talk about aggravating. Once you complete a level, you can read the article and see which pictures of yours got published. You also unlock a minigame to play after each completed level, and they're not horrible, but they're not that fun either. Some of the controls for them were a pain to deal with too. There's a co-op mode where one player moves around while the other takes a picture, and then vice versa every time a photo is taken, or you can change up the rules to have one person steer and take photos, then switch entirely to the other person for the next shot. It's actually not bad, but having more control in single-player mode is more satisfying. Wild Earth African Safari is an okay game. Good controls, fun co-op gameplay, many different animals to take pictures of, and searching for the right picture is a fun adventure, and lots of good information about the animals and your surroundings. However, the graphics are poor, which made finding some animals more difficult than it could have been. It would have been nice to have a larger lens for farther telephoto shots. I didn't like how it didn't matter what kind of photo you took so long as the subject is in frame at a relatively good distance. That part where the crocodile chased me and then just stayed in the tree grove seemed odd and unrealistic, not a good thing when the game is supposed to be realistic. That hippo nursery shot became extremely frustrating. The game itself can become boring, and the large amount of blocks required to save the game is crazy. But overall, it's a good educational game. Kids will receive good information about African wildlife, but I'm not sure their interest level will be high enough to finish the game. I think it takes the right person, and if they give it a chance, I think they'll enjoy it for a while. This game gets a 3 out of 5 with the title of Passable. Hey freaks, how's it going? So I'm sure some of you are wondering, wait, what? Passable? When did this happen? Well, a few seconds ago if you watched the review. But seriously, for a while I've been thinking about adding some new gradients to the scoring system because, well, there's a number of reasons, but one of them being that right now as it stands, there's no like middle ground between the bad and good titles. So like, right now it stands at a 2.5 out of 5 is a bad score, but then a 2.75 out of 5 is a good score. So there's like, there's not enough middle ground to go from bad to good. It just instantly shifts up. And so, I've been thinking that when people watch my reviews, in that area of scores and titles, there's not enough middle ground, enough gradients to for me to make that jump from bad to good. Like a good example being my Game Party 2 review. I gave that game, well, spoiler alert, I gave that game a 2.75 out of 5, and that is the lowest good score right now because it jumps all the way up to 3.5, and that's still a good score. And I was hoping people would look at the scores more than the titles because, for me, titles are more of just flair right now. I was hoping they would look at the scores, and but people like to look at the titles as well. So I think there needs to be some more gradients in there, some more middle ground. So I added some new gradients to the scoring system. So here we go. From worst to best, we have 0 at complete and ultimate fail. We have 0.25 to 0.75 at total crap. And then it changes up a bit. Before it was 1 to 1.5 with a title of horrible. But now it's decreased a little. 1 to 1.25 is horrible. And you'll notice that most of the scores and titles have a 2 increment value, if you will. So like 1 and 1.25, there's 2 increments right there. So going on up, we have 1.5 to 1.75 is bad. And then we have 2 to 2.25 is poor. And then 2.5 to 2.75 mediocre. 3 to 3.25 is passable. 3.5 to 3.75 good. 4 to 4.25 is awesome. 4.5 to 4.75 is epic. And of course 5 is monumentally and supremely perfect. And just as a side note, I just want to address this again. I think I mentioned this in a vlog a few years back, that the scores and titles, the titles mainly are just flair, and like, monumentally and supremely perfect, no game is perfect, but I feel that the game that I gave a 5 out of 5 to was the closest to perfect that any game is going to get. And it doesn't mean that other games can't get that score, I just feel like that was the game that came the closest so far. So hopefully these gradients will help with understanding my decision for giving certain games specific scores. So, and I know I have a lot of games that I gave a 3.75 out of 5 with the title of awesome to, but you know, I'm downgrading it to 3.75 is a good. Because if you think about it, 3.75 out of 5 is 7.5 out of 10, and that's 75%, and that's not really an awesome score. It's a good score for a game. Maybe not for school, but for a game, I think that's pretty good. So right now, the lowest awesome score is a 4 out of 5, which is 80%. So I'd say that's an awesome score. Or you could say it's a great score. I just like to use the word awesome. So hope this clears things up a bit. And thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you later.